Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History.
Well, hey, gang. Y'all been having a big time today?
Oh, yes.
Yeah? Well, can you say Arboretum?
Arboretum.
Okay, well, can you say Liriodendron tulipifera?
Sir.
Do you know what Liriodendron tulipifera is? That dog's name is Turkey. Yeah, sometimes known as Turkey Doodle. Let me point out Liriodendron tulipifera. Look at that big tulip poplar right there. All right, well, old Mr. Turkey and myself, we've got to move on up the trail.
See you, Mr. Turkey.
So I hope y'all have a educational rest of the day, okay?
Thank you. Good.
Okay. All right, have a good day. I'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mr. Turkey. Goodbye, doggy.
Hey, look at this. It's a Caria tomentosa. See here? Look at there. Can you say Caria tomentosa? Huh? I didn't think so. He's not so good with scientific names. He's more familiar with this tree as a squirrel tree, a mockernut hickory. It's a favorite among squirrels. It's a beautiful summer's day, the kind of day my dog Turkey and I have often enjoyed in the forest. Here, we're protected from the sun by nature's own parasol. Here we enjoy the many aromatic smells and the soothing melodies that only bountiful nature can offer. Hi, I'm Doug Phillips. And while it might look like I'm way out in the Alabama backwoods, as we're often prone to venture, today I'm actually pretty close to the city. Where am I? Here's a clue. This is a telltale sign that we're not in the typical forest. The manicured footpath is another clue. And yet another clue is that here we'll find native plants that are becoming increasingly rare. That's right, today we're in an arboretum. Join me as we explore the many values that Alabama's arboreta have to offer. Can you say Sarracenia leucophylla? Come on. This program is about a land unknown to many people, a land that in many ways has escaped the hustle and bustle of modern civilization, a place with bountiful backcountry, forests, streams, and wildlife more diverse than can be found in much of the inhabited world. Come along with me as we explore the natural wonders of this land. Come along as we discover Alabama. Welcome to Discovering Alabama. Today we'll be enjoying some of the special sights and sounds here at the University of Alabama Arboretum in Tuscaloosa. And before the day's done, we'll also be paying visits to the Davis Arboretum on the campus of Auburn University, Troy State University Arboretum in Troy, Alabama, and the William Bartram Arboretum at the Fort Toulouse-Jackson Historical Park in Wetumpka. As we begin our journey in the Arboretum, let's start with the basics, like what exactly is an Arboretum?
Well, the word Arboretum actually means tree park. And so it's a place where trees come and park. No. It's a place where you, theoretically, is to conserve trees. And like any park, the park is there to conserve. And but generally speaking, arboreta are used for many different purposes. Experimental purposes, to explore the range of plants to see if they will grow in certain areas, as well as to offer recreation or learning experiences for the public.
And let's see what Webster has to say. Arboretum is a noun from the Latin word arbor, meaning tree, and sure enough, it is a park-like area where trees, shrubs, and herbaceous plants are cultivated for scientific and educational purposes.
Guys, can y'all tell me where you are?
Arboretum.
Louder.
Arboretum.
Yes, you are at the Arboretum. You know of art museums, you have pictures and sculptures. If you go to a natural history museum, you have artifacts and fossils, dinosaur bones. Well, here at the Arboretum, trees are sculptures, flowers and plants and shrubbery are like our paintings, and the rare and endangered species that you can find around here that we protect, you can sort of say are like dinosaur bones or artifacts, rare things.
At this point, you might be wondering, so what's the difference between an arboretum and a botanical garden? Okay, let's check that. A botanical garden is an area set aside for the cultivation, study, and exhibition of special plants. In short, we think of the focus of an arboretum as more on trees, big plants, and the focus of a botanical garden is more on small plants, flowers, and the like. Of course, you'll find trees at a botanical garden, and you'll find flowers at an arboretum. The University of Alabama Arboretum, for example, features 2 greenhouses. An arboretum and a botanical garden are both great places to educate yourself about plants, and both are good places to stop and smell the roses, or maybe prune the roses, or maybe just relax and enjoy the nature of things. Here at the University of Alabama Arboretum, you can wander along 2.5 miles of nature trails meandering through 60 acres. Inhale the wild beauty of some of Alabama's wildflowers, or use the inspiring setting to inspire your studies. Peaceful though it may be here at the Arboretum, this place is not without controversy. For example, what's the plural of the word arboretum? Some folks say arboreta, the word is from the Latin. Others say arboretums. After all, the word has been anglicized. Arboreta, arboretums, tomato, tomato. This debate is easy to settle because, according to the dictionary, both are perfectly acceptable. Another controversy is a bit more complex. Should an arboretum import plants from foreign places, from around the world? Or should the local arboretum be entirely homegrown? Historically, most arboreta patterned themselves after the world's oldest known arboretum in Padua, Italy. You could find many exotic plants, such as this magnificent metasequoia at the Davis Arboretum in Auburn. The word exotic, especially in reference to plants, means brought in from a foreign country. Examples of exotics abound throughout Alabama: mimosa trees, honeysuckle, kudzu. Today, across the globe and across Alabama, we are losing more and more of our own native environment. And with these changes is coming a greater emphasis on indigenous plants. Indigenous essentially meaning plants that were here before we traveling humans showed up with exotics. The new emphasis on indigenous plants has brought change in the missions of many arboreta.
As part of the mission, of any arboretum, we try to preserve plants that are endangered, rare, or threatened. And so here at the University Arboretum, we have a section that is pretty much specifically for native endangered threatened plants.
The richness of our heritage is tied so closely to our natural environment that should be one of the highest, if not the highest priority of the people of Alabama and the people of this beautiful country as a whole to preserve and maintain.
And in order to understand the diversity of the earth, the diversity that in the end keeps us all alive, people have to have a chance to look at some of that diversity. And one of the ways they can do that is to come to an arboretum, go from tree to tree, and for instance here see representations of a variety of Alabama habitats.
If you're interested in the variety of Alabama, an arboretum is a good place to start. Even the more familiar sites can be seen from a different angle. Here at the University of Alabama Arboretum, a treetop platform provides a bird's eye view of habitat that's often overlooked, or should I say underlooked.
When you're in a forest, you've got to think about the levels. And that's why we have the platform, to be able to raise you to that next level so that you can get a whole new perspective and really consider the different habitats.
We brainstormed and came up with the idea of somehow getting the children up into the canopy of the trees so that they could have a different vantage point in learning about nature. Instead of from the ground looking up, they would be up looking down.
So now, there it is. A ridiculous idea? I don't think so. So that's how it happened, and it came out of our commitment to the importance of children being in the natural environment.
The treetop platform here at the University of Alabama Arboretum has led to the creation of a new word, tree topology. You won't find tree topology in the dictionary because the term was coined by Jane Ingram to express the goal of the Arboretum's treetop platform. Now students can take the science and the fun they've been having at ground level to new heights.
I think I'm a biologist because I climb trees, because I started, in addition to just getting up high to maybe be a bird and get a better view of things, I started looking at the tree itself. And I soon observed that there were insects there, and there were birds, and even fascinating things called lichens. And I started getting curious, what were these things? And as I got older and older, I wanted to know their names, and as I still got older, I wanted to know what they were doing. And so what this tree topology does is really to build on this natural things we have as children of playing in nature.
You guys have been told what the theme of all of this is today, but it's biodiversity. Anybody have any idea what that word means?
I've heard that frequency bio before.
Okay, well, bio.
I don't know, but yeah, biology.
Okay.
I have no idea. Isn't it some kind of class? It's a high school class. Exactly. In a college class. Science or something.
Science of life. Life.
Science of plants.
So bio means life.
In the early days, the teachers used to come and we'd take walks through the forest, and the children had a good time, but then we began to notice that they really needed to get more than just taking a walk through the woods.
Again, just to be sure everybody knows, you see this vine growing up the side of the tree right here that they have 3 leaflets. At each place you see the leaves, there are 3 leaflets, and they're kind of pointed on the ends. That's poison ivy, so whenever you see that on the sides of the trail, you want to kind of stay back away from it.
And so what we began to do was to form sort of structured programs for them where they could learn about what I sort of consider to be the magic of nature.
What pH measures is the acidity of the soil. You guys familiar with acid? Know what acid is? Battery acid, acid. If things get too acidic, it can burn you. Well, it's sort of the same case with plants.
If you take a log and roll it over, a second grader is just going to go crazy. They love seeing all those creatures that are under there and the whole process of that log turning into soil.
Nobody's hitting me. I need to get it back.
Okay.
I just want to see a piece. I'm asking you nothing.
When I visit an arboretum, I usually bring along some nature field guides to learn more about the plants and animals that I may see out here. Today, for example, I've got nature field guides on birds, wildflowers, and of course, trees. And these are useful for a variety of reasons. For example, if I wanted to know a little more about this fellow right here, then I would look up white oak and find out the species name is Quercus alba. And right here I can find the range, the length of the lifespan of the tree, and a variety of other information. You can get tree guides and nature guides at just about any bookstore, and they're very helpful. But don't think you have to show up at the Arboretum prepared to make a scientific study. Sometimes the best way to enjoy the Arboretum is, well, to just enjoy the Arboretum.
This is another very interesting and very rare plant in the state of Alabama. This is Croton alabamensis. It's found principally just in Alabama. It has been found once or twice outside of Alabama, but principally it's found in the Warrior River Basin and in the Cahaba River Basin and on some of the small creeks that feed into those areas. It's one of the rarest plants anywhere in the world.
This plant is an interesting plant because, first of all, it's very easy to know because of the combination of the red and yellow. And it's interesting because it was one of the first plants that settlers used as a medicinal plant. And it was used to, the plant is called Indian pink or Indian paintbrush, and the plant was used to expel worms. Evidently, early settlers had a lot of problems with worms because several of the first plants that they encountered were used to treat themselves for this condition.
So this plant doesn't smell very good. It also has kind of a dead meat smell about it. In nature, what it would do would be to attract I believe this one is pollinated by a moth, and the moth has to go into this big kind of balloon-shaped area in order to reach the part of the plant that has the reproductive structures. Well, as long as the plant is not pollinated, while the insect is in there, these petals will fold down and hold the insect inside. And then once it's pollinated, it will open back up and let the insect fly out.
It's very pleasant being here, and I'm just thrilled that so many of our children will experience this because it is not a common experience for many children. And so we are making it possible for children in Tuscaloosa and hopefully the county and hopefully the state to come and have this experience. It's a very valuable resource for the university and the state.
And there's lots to enjoy at other arboreta around the state. Each has its own special character.
We have 75 acres in the main campus located in Troy that is developed into an arboretum where we have hiking trails, we have a pond, we have a stream that runs through it, and we also have an educational facility. And here at the Pike County Pocosin, we're about 6 miles east of town, we have approximately 15 acres of a scrub oak, lichen, kind of sandhill upland community, as well as several steep hardwood ravines. Well, basically what the Pocosin is the remnants of an old dune system along the beach. And there's just so much sand that's piled up here that all of the water basically just goes straight through like a sieve, and that makes it extremely dry. And when the water goes through, it also takes the nutrients with it. That also makes it very poor. But you find a lot of the same types of plants and animals that you would find down close to the beach here, just a lot further inland.
The Arboretum here is very unique in that this site was visited by William Bartram, and he gave a very explicit description of the Indians here and life here around 1790. The plant life here is very, very diverse. We're right at the foot of the Appalachian Plateau and right at the northernmost part of the Gulf coastal plain. Very, very diverse ecological area. This place is very special because you can come here and see the outdoors and nature in an unaltered state.
Dr. Don Davis, who was a professor of ecology in the Department of Biology here at Auburn, conceived the idea of creating the Arboretum in 1959. Davis Arboretum is 13 acres, more or less, and originally it was a 7-acre plot, and then about 20 years ago we acquired some agricultural research land that was just a field, so the total acreage is more or less 13 acres.
Alabama's arboreta are special places. Here you can enjoy a walk in the woods reminiscent of the forested days of the settlers. It does make you wonder, though, do we really want much of our native plant, tree species relegated to tree museums?
I think one thing that so many of us are worried about as biologists is the whole idea that there is a loss and extinction of life. And public policy is going to be very important as far as preservation of the biodiversity and the genetic diversity that we have. And for the public to support it, they have to know why it is important, but also there's a bit of appreciation. And you can read about it, you can hear about it, but until you experience being in the natural world, it's really difficult to gain that appreciation.
It's difficult to call humans in Western society stewards of nature. Originally, and still in some cultures, stewardship of nature is necessary in order to survive. But because we've separated ourselves from nature, and because the average citizen no longer understands that simple things like, well, food ultimately depends on the health of nature, we no longer really appreciate that it's our job, first and foremost, to take care of this home we have on this planet. But the more people come to places like this, the more that message can get across.
The Arboretum itself will play an important role in seeing that the last remnants of Alabama's natural heritage are not to be found only in an arboretum. Here in the Arboretum, one can find links to Alabama's past. Here in the Arboretum, one can find links to Alabama's future. What will you find in one of Alabama's Arboretum? There's no telling. Come on, boy, let's go find a Prunus serratina.
This program is supported by grants from the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, State Lands Division, the Alabama Wildlife Federation, working for wildlife since 1935, and Legacy, Partners in Environmental Education.